In a scene described by one investigator as reminiscent of a weird religious rite, 5 persons, including actress Sharon Tate, were found dead at the home of Miss Tate and her husband, screen director Roman Polanski. Miss Tate, who starred in Valley of the Dolls, was 8 months pregnant and was found in a bikini-type nightgown with a rope around her neck attached to the body of a man. Among the other victims were Hollywood hairstylist Jay Sebring and coffee heiress Abigail Folger. Authorities would allow no one in an unofficial capacity inside the posh $200,000 home in the hills overlooking Los Angeles. Polanski, who directed Rosemary's Baby and other films of suspense, reportedly is in Europe. One of the first officers on the scene, Police Sergeant Stanley Conrad.
Well, at the scene we had one body in a vehicle near the gate, a man and a woman in the main room, and a man and a woman on the lawn in front of the house. All deceased.
By what form?
It appeared to be knife punctures, possibly gunshot. We can't tell. We don't know for sure this time.
Was the area in disarray, or was it...
There were signs of a struggle in the main house and also in the guest house in the rear. Yes.
Was there a television set going or radio going? Or
no. There was no TV going. The radio was not going. The lights were on. One suspect was arrested in the rear house, the guest house.
Taken into custody by officers was the home's 19-year-old caretaker, William Garrettson. He was arrested on suspicion of murder. When police arrived, they found the telephones and electricity lines cut. The bodies had been dead about 12 hours. They were discovered this morning by a maid who ran screaming to neighbors. One officer summed up the murders when he said, "In all my years, I have never seen anything like this before." Josh Darcis, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Why did you say it, Charlie? Thank you, Arthur.
Stand by and we'll let you know in time when...
What do you mean by find a horse? Hey, Charlie, look up here. Right up there, look. Got a boy. That's good.
Process of jury selection began today in the trial of hippie leader Charles Manson and 3 young ladies, members of his so-called family. When Judge Charles Older asked the prospective jurors about the hardship that might be imposed by a trial of 6 months or more, 9 of the first 12 raised their hands, indicating they wanted out. But only 2 of that first batch were excused, both because they expressed opposition to the death penalty, the maximum under California law for murder and conspiracy to commit murder, which are the charges against Manson and the young ladies. Manson gave the jury candidates a treatment already familiar in the courtroom, a long, intense stare. His followers say he is hypnotic, and apparently he believes it. The Mrs. Atkins, Krenwinkel, and Van Houten were whispering and giggling until the session began, then quieted and rose quietly when the judge called on each in turn to face the jury panel. Neither they nor their long-haired 35-year-old leader indulged in any courtroom dramatics as they have in the past. Outside, Deputy District Attorney Vincent Bugliosi talked about the likely length of the trial.
I would estimate that this trial will last approximately 6 months. I think the jury selection will take between 3 and 4 weeks.
Weeks?
Yes.
Why do you say 6 months for the trial?
We're dealing with a case of tremendous magnitude and complexity. We have 7 murder victims. We have 4 defendants. There are some very subtle, sophisticated issues of law involved. These things just cannot be resolved in a day or so. It's just going to take a long time.
How many witnesses do you have in mind?
We've subpoenaed 80 witnesses thus far. However, as the case develops, I anticipate that we will probably put on 100 witnesses in our case in chief.
Already there is division among the defense lawyers. Manson's attorney wanted to take the first 12 prospective jurors. He said Manson thinks they, by chance, could be the type of jurors he wants. But the judge turned that down. Manson's lawyer feels the whole trial is just a show for the establishment, that Manson already has been tried and convicted. He simply wants to get it over with. Bill Stout, CBS News, Los Angeles.
To Mike if he wants it.
Next door?
Yeah.
Okay. Nothing?
No.
Put me in solitary confinement, break my teeth out, break my ribs, bust me up, kick me down a hole, and then come back and tell me about care. I don't know what care is, man. You go down to St. Louis, right, and you get off the bus and you're broke. You go to the phone and call moms. Right. I don't. I go to the alley and get a tire iron. You want me to be everything to everybody. You want me to face all your fears and all your debts. You want me to die again for you. Ugh. You want me to go to the gas chamber and walk in and say, all right, preacher on one side of me, priest on the other side, and they say, I'm the son of God, and they say, we know, son, go in and sit down.
From CBS News in Washington, this is the CBS News Night Watch. Now here is correspondent Charlie Rose.
Good morning. Through the ages, philosophers and theologians have debated the nature of evil. Is it a physical force? Can it be measured, understood, predicted, or altered? Is evil a cause, an effect, or is it simply the absence of good? This morning, on this broadcast, we come face to face with a man that many say inspired and committed the crime of the century. His name is Charles Manson. Nearly 17 years ago, Manson led a so-called family of followers on a rampage that took the lives of at least 9 people. He was caught, convicted, and most likely will spend the rest of his life in prison. Why interview Charles Manson so long after the murders? Criminologists consider the Manson case a significant, if chilling one, because of his power over others. Psychologists and psychiatric social workers find in Manson another kind of phenomenon. He may have been an abused child, and he brings up the theme in our interview. But there is something else here. For a decade and a half, we have known what Manson did without understanding why. Yes, we know Helter Skelter was from a Beatles song. Yes, family members used LSD heavily. But what about Manson himself? There are clues and revelations throughout our interview. We asked Manson if he cared about Sharon Tate, cared about her unborn child. He is astonished by the question. He is amused by the question. And then the old rage and hate boiled to the surface. This is a provocative and controversial interview, and perhaps too intense. It is also sad and instructive. Back after this.
In the news, TWA flight attendants went on strike shortly after midnight this morning. Picket lines were set up at airports around the country as negotiators worked past a midnight strike deadline without reaching agreement on wage and work rule concessions. The Presidential Commission on the Space Shuttle disaster holds a public hearing at the Kennedy Space Center today. It's expected to review new evidence that a booster rocket seal may have been damaged during assembly. President Reagan nominated former NASA Chief James Fletcher Thursday to head the space agency again. The Senate voted 97-1 Thursday to ban so-called cop-killer bullets, which can penetrate bulletproof vests. The measure now goes to the House, which passed a similar bill last year.
Now is the time for Helter Skelter. With those words, in the summer of 1969, Charles Manson set into motion a wave of terror in Southern California. In 2 nights, Manson's murderous spree took the lives of at least 7 people, including actress Sharon Tate and her unborn baby. The cult, or family, spoke of launching a holy war against the rich and the powerful. Many of its members were heavy users of hallucinogenic drugs, mainly LSD. The killings were bizarre and merciless. They triggered a public panic and raised the specter of drug-crazed youths slaughtering their victims at random. The Tate LaBianca murders abruptly ended an era that's remembered today for its flower children, Beatles music, and make love, not war slogans. Who was Charles Manson? Manson was portrayed as a guitar-playing ex-convict with a following of runaway young women, his so-called family members. He was described as either a demented messiah, a psychopathic killer, or a man who controlled the minds of weaker followers. Testimony revealed that while Manson was not present at the home of director Roman Polanski the night of the murders, he planned and ordered the deaths of Sharon Tate and her guests. Americans also learned Manson was born out of wedlock to a 16-year-old prostitute in Cincinnati, Ohio. His childhood years were a series of foster homes. By 1969, Manson had served more than half his life in reform schools or prisons. He had been convicted of forgery, homosexual rape, and car theft. On April 17th, 1971, Manson was sentenced to death for 7 counts of murder in the first degree. A trial later that year found him guilty of 2 more counts of murder. Because of a change in state law, the death penalty was commuted to life in prison. Manson is now serving that sentence at San Quentin.
So, Rose, how are you?
How are you?
I've been watching you on the tube.
What do you think?
Everything. Nothing.
Let me sit here.
How's your day going?
Day's going nice. The weather here is much better than the weather in Washington, D.C. We left 4 inches of snow. And I got out here and they said this is record warm temperatures.
Yeah, I'm kind of nervous. I've been locked up in the hole a long time. So for me to come out of that cell, it's a whole brand new experience.
And what's the prison routine like for you?
I sit in my cell 24 hours a day.
Do you read?
No.
Why not?
Well, I found my thoughts are more interesting than anything I can read.
Watch any television?
Occasionally.
What do you watch?
I watch, I spin it around a lot. I watch a little bit of everything.
Listen to radio?
When I have one, yeah.
Have any friends you talk to?
I'm friend to everything I see, everything I know, everything I feel.
What about other inmates?
I'm brother in these hallways for 40 years with no snitching on my jacket, no asking for nobody to protect me, and walking on my own 2 feet.
You get a lot of mail.
Yeah.
What do they say? Those letters.
Everybody's playing a different game with the thought. They're playing boats and planes and trains and rabbits and ducks and swings and hearts and little girls and everything that you can think of. When we started the Rainbow, all the thoughts that go with the seed grows up from the ground. Everything that grows starts and grows up. You go down in the earth to plant something, and you plant these seeds, and this garden grows. It's the same thing with the garden that's in the mind.
I want to talk about that, but let me stay with the routine, the facts of your life for a while. What about the scorpions? You make scorpions?
I make little things out of string.
Where do you send them?
Everywhere. Wherever they fit.
Does somebody pay you for them?
No.
Why scorpions?
Well, it's not only scorpions. I make all kinds of things. You know, scorpions is just one of the things that I happen to make. I'm spiritually allied with the scorpion and the wolf. See, spiritualism scares you people because you've got this little stereotype church that you're buying and selling, and you're trying to put God in a building. But God is much bigger than that little church. You know, and spiritualism is a lot more than they put in libraries and books.
Yeah, most religious people know that.
Yeah. Well, I'm allied with certain awarenesses of the desert, you know.
What do you miss most being in that cell?
I miss having my music because some egomaniac wants to feel important, and they keep my music away from me.
Your music is your guitar?
Yeah.
Well, they say if they give you a guitar, they got to give everybody a guitar.
That's an excuse. That's a total cop-out. I got a big jealous snake I have to deal with every day. A big, inadequate, incompetent, jealous snake that has no mind, that has no soul.
Is that a person?
It just wound up with money. You could pay him to walk backwards. You buy them and sell them. They're in Wall Street.
When we sit here and talk to you, people wonder, where did Charlie Manson come from? What are your earliest memories?
I come from the heart of Bing Crosby, Frank Sinatra.
But what does that mean?
Tom Mix.
Those were the people that you listened to as a child?
Yeah, Roosevelt. I come from the hills of Kentucky.
Yeah.
I come from hard times, bologna for Sunday dinner. I come from the Depression.
You come from not knowing your father?
I know my father. My father's all men.
Yeah, but your biological father you don't know?
Section 8. All the discharged men of the Second World War raised me. Ferguson was an ensign in the Navy. He raised me. Yeah. All the guys that came back from the war raises all the kids that are locked up in prisons.
What about your mother?
Mother is the icebox. Yeah. She's the penitentiary. One of my first recollections is walking in Moundsville State Prison, West Virginia. Big gray stone place. And I come to visit my mom. She was doing time there.
For what?
Strong-arm robbery. Trying to make some food, put some food on the table and give me an operation when I was a child.
That's your first, one of your earliest memories?
Yeah, I remember that. That was a...
Are there happy memories?
I don't have that.
You don't have that?
I don't have that yin and yang that you do.
Is that yin yang?
Yeah, in other words, you can't make me unhappy.
Are sad memories, though, growing up?
I don't have all that.
Yeah. You do have it. You have an experience. You're an individual, one human being with experiences.
When you leave, go get a big rock and set it on a table.
Yeah.
I'm that rock on the table.
Meaning
I don't have all those things.
But you do have all those things.
No, you do. And you think that I do because you think that my mind is like your mind, but it isn't.
It's been said that if Charles Manson has any roots at all, they are in the penal system. He had spent more than 20 years in correctional facilities even before the Tate LaBianca killings. For him, then, the jail cell is the stable home he never knew. Some say his life is a monument to parental neglect and the failure of our prison systems. We talk more of Manson's early years in this part of our interview. When you were 16, you were out on your own, you were making money on your own,
yeah, but
you were in trouble with the law.
Yeah, but you got to realize when I was 16, it's not like people that you would think is 16.
Why is that?
Well, a person that's raised on the street at 16 years old is generally about 55 in their minds.
Because they see so many experiences so quick.
You know, they've been through more life and death situations, and they've been through 10 times more than the average person sitting there doing what their mother says, going back and forwards to school. In other words, life is not in a school book.
Yeah. Do you want to look back at that early period of your life and before the 60s and say, boy, something went wrong because I got on this track and I was in and out of prison, you know, and I went to foster homes, and then my mother would take me, then I'd go see my grandmother, and then I'd go back and see my mother, and then she would run away, and somehow. Did that shape you? Did it make a difference?
Well, see, that doesn't even compute in my world because, like, there is no wrong.
There's no wrong?
I don't do any wrong. I wouldn't do anything that was wrong. If I did something that I would regret, then I would punish myself for it. And I wouldn't stand here and beat myself in the head with a hammer. That wouldn't make much sense.
Yeah.
You know, so you got a parallel universe. You got two worlds. One world, everything is a lie and everything is wrong and you can never do anything right. According to anybody else, I've never done anything right. There's always been someone to say that I wasn't right and I did it wrong.
Yeah.
But in the world that I live in, I've never made a bad move in my whole life.
In the world you have lived in,
sure,
you would not rewrite any episode, you would not change anything, you do not look back and say, my God, I took a wrong turn there.
No.
None of it?
No. No.
Not once?
I wouldn't be here if I did have. So you got to realize there's no slack in my act.
Yeah.
I don't have I can't. In other words, you go down to St. Louis,
right,
and you get off the bus and you're broke. Right. You go to the phone and call moms.
Right.
I don't. I go to the alley and get a tire iron.
And do what?
And whatever I got to do to survive, that's what I do.
And so what's the difference in you and me then?
Because you don't know how to survive. You're weak. You have emotions. You play little games with your mind. You chase your tail.
Yeah, but you know, you have said before about your life that you needed love and you needed family and you needed friends, and that's the one thing that every man needs.
No, you misunderstood. I never said anything like that. You might paraphrase what I said into thinking I said something like that. Everything is love. There's nothing that isn't love. Even the confusion is love in one form or another. It's misguided. Love is a word that we use to supplement for God, or I would rather use the word intelligence. If you're going to use the word love, use the word intelligence, because love is misunderstood in so many different ways and fashions.
Do you need to be loved?
Loved. I am loved.
By whom?
I am love.
Are you loved?
I am love.
Are you loved?
All the way.
Okay.
I'm around the world with it. Ain't you seen it 15 times? I'm standing in the fire with it, man.
Meaning what?
Meaning I'm taking up all the slack for you. I'm carrying you around, Nixon.
Yeah.
I still got you. Hey, Regan, hey, Ronnie. I didn't tell him that was your gun that shot that guy. I didn't tell him that gun came out of that trailer that came over there. I held my mud on you, Ronnie, old crime partner.
Yeah.
You dig what I'm saying? In other words, I'm intertwined in your very soul, man. You give me my rights. My father died in the battlefields for my rights. Then I go down to L.A. and some district attorney wants to get rich and make a lot of money.
Yeah.
He's got something that's selling good. He dumps it over on me. It's okay.
Yeah.
There's only one poor guy down here. He's nobody. And they overlook the fact that I had already been brother in this penitentiary for 22 years. I speak big in that yard out there.
But did they overlook that fact or not?
Sure, they overlooked it.
Well, how did they overlook it?
They took my rights, man.
Yeah.
You don't take my rights. You'd rumble the graveyard from here to the unknown soldier.
But you respect power, and the system works this way. the state has power, and if in fact you violate the laws of the state, they have the power to put you away.
Sure.
You respect that?
Sure. I did for 22 years.
That's right.
That's why I'm mad. That's why I'm mad. I held that up. When I was a child, I used to be crying and bitching, and the old man said, "You do the crime, boy?" And I'd say, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, shut up and do your time."
In this part of our interview with convicted murderer Charles Manson, we talk about the influence of Haight-Ashbury. He met the gentle folk there, the hippies at the height of flower power. He started collecting a harem of young, impressionable women. The group later developed into his family, the family that was responsible for the Tate LaBianca murders. All this began to develop when Manson was freed from prison in 1967 and lingered in San Francisco.
So when I get back out, and your kids pick me up out of the street and pick me up out of the garbage can, all I want is the little girls. I love them little girls. I'm following them little girls around. I ain't got no thought in my mind about nothing.
Right.
I'm not trying to stop nobody. I'm playing music. I'm free. It took me 22 years to get out of this hallway.
This was Haight-Ashbury, 1967.
Yeah. They picked me up. They said, "Kid, 16-year-old kid." I said, "Where do you sleep?" He said, "Wherever I lay down." I said, "Well, don't you have to have an apartment?" He said, "No, I sleep in the park." I said, "How do you do that?" He said, "Sleeping bag." I said, "Is that right? What do you eat?" He said, "Food." I said, "Man, where do you get it?" He said, "Wherever I can." I said, "Don't you have a job?" And he laughed at me. He said, "No, I went out to Diggers."
Yeah.
So I went down and I looked around and I said, "Hey, this is love here.
Yeah.
This is love here."
The best time of your life.
Yeah. It was the only time in my life. I never had no life before that. It's always been in here with these guys, man. It's always been in jail. I never had no life outside. I've been locked up since I was 9 years old,
I know,
man.
but now you're in 1967, you're in Haight-Ashbury in San Francisco.
I got out. I'm free. I'm free.
You're free.
I got better sense than break the law, man. You're not going to break no law. If you break the law, you put yourself in jail.
You're in Haight-Ashbury, and what's the magnetism of you? Why did they come to you? Why were they attracted to you?
Well,
those young girls that you were looking for.
All right, here's the thing. In the penitentiary, you learn this.
All right.
Don't lie. Don't lie, man. If someone catches you in a lie, you leave yourself open to get snuffed. And all my life, I've lived in the eye that tell the truth. Pay your debts. Don't get involved in other people's business. Do your number, do your time. And you learn to stand on your own. So I'm walking, I'm standing on my own. People see me standing on my own. Not too many people in your world can do that. But I don't realize that at that particular time. I don't realize how weak and mindless you people are. See, I'm judging you by the people in here. See?
And you're at Haight-Ashbury, and you meet these young women, young girls,
young people,
and you're playing a guitar, and everything is happy, and there's a lot of love, and you're not lying to them. You're just singing songs, and they're coming to you. What's going on? What's happening?
The world is happening. The war was going on. All the children wanted to stop the war.
Yeah.
They wanted peace on earth.
Yeah.
And they come to me and they says, they says, well, we want this, this, and this. And I said, okay. And they said, let's go demonstrate. And I said, no, I'm not going to go demonstrate. I'm not going to go get put in jail. And they said, well, wouldn't you give your love to stop the war? And wouldn't you give your love to save the world? I said, would you give your love to save the world? And they said, yeah. I said, well, how much would you give to save the world? And they said, we would give all. I'll lay my body down. You dig? I give all to save the world. I said, well, if that's you, then you can do that. But I just gave 22 years of my life, and I'm not going back in there for God or nobody else. So if you want to do that, that's your road.
What was it like for you? Was there...
I passed through Haight-Ashbury.
Yeah.
I threw my pistol off of that bridge over there.
You did?
Yeah.
Because...
I got tired of carrying pistols. I thought, well, I don't need to shoot anybody, so I threw the pistol over.
But this was the best time of your life, you said. You had a family and people that loved you.
I got free.
A lot of girls you liked.
I didn't say, you say, I didn't say people loved me.
I'm only asking. I'm only asking.
I say the people were loved. That was love. It was happening there.
Yeah.
That was happening. But you got to realize I came in on the end of that.
Right.
And I only went through that. I never got stuck up in that.
Yeah.
Because I seen the pitfalls. I seen the speed freaks. Yeah. I seen the falling of it. I seen it falling. I'm very aware when it comes to seeing things.
You were an ex-con and you were wary.
I was, yeah, I'm not going to get busted or go to jail again.
Yeah.
That was my thought.
So
I used to hold this up saying, one positive thought. Yeah. I'll never go back to jail again because I'll never break the law again.
So you had a family, though?
I had a family. See, there you go.
A family had you. A family had you. But no. You were trying to make it suggest I'm saying this, and I'm saying, did you or did you not?
No, I never thought of a family. Okay. I've never, I don't hang on to people, man.
Right.
I've never had anybody I hold on to. That's not even in my mind.
Our interview with Charles Manson continues in the next half hour. When we return, Manson talks about the infamous Manson family and those terrible 2 nights of murder in August 1969. Stay with us. Night Watch continues.
From CBS News in Washington, this is the CBS News Night Watch. And here again is correspondent Charlie Rose.
Welcome back. This half hour, we continue our conversation with Charles Manson. He and his bizarre family of followers terrified the country 17 years ago. They were responsible for the brutal, savage murders of actress Sharon Tate and a half dozen others. Manson was convicted of 9 counts of murder in the first degree and 1 count of conspiracy. He's now serving a life sentence at San Quentin, where he was recently denied parole. That's where we spoke to him about his life in and out of prison. More from Manson coming right up. Stay with us as we continue.
In the news, the state of emergency imposed on parts of South Africa to curb rioting last summer was lifted today. The measure gave security forces broad powers to detain suspects without trial in 23 cities and towns. President P.W. Botha said Tuesday that anti-apartheid violence had declined enough to allow the state of emergency to be canceled. Swedish police are being deluged with calls in response to a picture described as the first clear likeness of Prime Minister Olof Palme's assassin. Several suspects resembling the computer-drawn rendering have been briefly detained, then released after questioning. Actor Adolph Caesar died in Los Angeles Thursday after suffering an apparent heart attack. He was widely acclaimed for his roles in A Soldier's Story and The Color Purple. Adolph Caesar was 52. Georgia O'Keeffe, a leading figure in contemporary American art, died Thursday near her home in New Mexico. She was 98. O'Keeffe was best known for her colorful abstracts and clearly defined paintings of desert flowers and bones.
We're talking with Charles Manson this morning. We met him in the parole board hearing room at San Quentin Prison, where Manson is serving a life sentence. He was denied parole in that same room last month for the 6th time. In this part of our interview, we began discussing the murders and the members of his so-called family. We spoke about his relationship with some of the others who took part in the killings. Both Charles Tex Watson and Susan Atkins were among the 4 Manson followers convicted of 7 counts of murder. They are all serving life sentences. You say there was no family. There was no Manson family. There were a group of people that were having a good time. They say you told them, the leader business, you told them to go murder. That's what they testified.
No.
Did Watson testify to that?
No.
Did Watson say that?
No.
Did he write a book and say that?
He may have said it in his book after he convinced himself of it.
Yeah, he did.
But he said this basically this is what I thought Charlie wanted me to do.
Yeah.
See, what happens when you're dealing in the street and you're dealing in life and death? Life and death is going by you like this every day.
Right.
There's a guy with a knife.
But you're not dealing in the street. You're up in the mountains playing a guitar.
This is where my thought is running. See, you guys sit down, you compute all this, and this all. But to me, this goes by like I may face life and death situations 4 times a day, like it was dust on my shoulder. You dig? So Tex has a little problem. He has a little problem. He gives me a gun. He can't deal with it. I have to go deal with his problem.
Which is?
I have to go shoot somebody for him because he's too much of a coward and he's laying up underneath the bed with it.
Who'd you shoot?
I had to shoot lots of Papa.
Who?
Some guy down in the drug world. I had to go down and take care of some business that was not my business. So Tex owed me one. So when I come back and I say, see, you got me in trouble. Every time I stand up for you, brother, I got to face your life and your death. You dig? I'm tired of carrying you on my back. And I threw the gun. I said, now you owe me one. And if you don't pay me when you owe me, then I'm going to pay you what you owe me. You see what I'm saying? In other words, I have to go into another person and put on another face and come back and play, you know.
I understand. So you say to Tex, you owe me one.
That's right. So then when my brother gets busted and my brother's in jail, then I tell Tex, pay him what you owe me. Well, I said, don't tell me nothing. I don't want to hear nothing. I'm not part of no conspiracy. I'm not breaking no laws. You dig what I'm saying? I'm not getting involved in nothing. However you do it, you do it. I don't care how you do it, but don't bring it to me. I just come back and big sir, I got a traffic ticket.
But that's not what they say.
Who's they? Who's they said
Susie
that?
Atkins.
No, Susan Atkins never said. I said, do anything except do what Tex said. And I did say that. I said, Susie, you owe me? She says, yeah. I said, you remember the 3 dudes I fought for you? She said, yeah. I said, remember that other dude I cut his ears off for you?
Yeah.
She says, yeah. I said, well, then pay that to Tex. Don't bother me with it.
All right. After you knew what that had happened at Sharon Tate's, the most brutal murder that people were aware of. Not that there's not a lot of other brutality around, but this got attention. What'd you think?
Well, I looked over in Vietnam and I said,
No, what'd you think about Sharon Tate and her unborn baby?
What did I think about it?
Yeah.
It's not my world. I don't live in that world.
Well, so you didn't care?
Care?
Suppose Tex...
What the hell does that mean, care?
Well, it means love. That means some sense
Put me in solitary confinement, break my teeth out, break my ribs, bust me up, kick me down a hole, and then come back and tell me about care. I don't know what care is, man.
You said to Tex, you owe me one. Tex goes out and commits this atrocious, horrendous, horrible crime.
It's atrocious from where you're looking.
It's atrocious where anybody looks.
No,
it is.
No. I look over at my lane, and I see those guys running through there, and I say, good job, man.
You didn't say that. You didn't say that.
I would have if I'd have been the general in that. You better believe I would have said it.
You would have said, good for you for killing those people in my line?
Man, when you're in war, mister.
Okay, but what does war have to do with Sharon Tate's murder?
What's it got to do with any murder?
Ah, but then you said one more death. It doesn't matter.
Wait. They picked up they wanted to stop the war. You don't make no change without bloodshed.
Yeah. You didn't feel any remorse because maybe Tex misunderstood you if you accept that link. I didn't mean for you to do that, Tex.
All right. Let me cool down a little bit.
Okay.
How you doing today?
All right.
Good. You got a girl.
Right.
She lays her bridge over troubled waters and all that. She's buying a stairway to someplace, but her welfare check didn't come in. She's got all these things in her head, and she's willing to die for this. And she comes and she says, this is my station in life. I'm an angel. I have a cause. This is what I was destined to do. She decides she wants to get up on this road and do this. I tell her, do you realize now that you're only taking your own life? And she says, yes. Yeah. How could I have remorse for her love's giving to the world? On the altar of that, I wouldn't hide it. I would say, that's beautiful. But to those who cannot give in the word love, they would hide it and say, oh, how terrible it is. But ask the Ayatollah when his young son goes out there and gets his legs blown off, or someone dies for something they believe in to die and martyr themselves into forever, you dig? Mm-hmm. Then someone that can't see that as being love, they turn around and call it dirty, and they call it nasty, and then they make their children into be criminals and crooks, and then they hide them up underneath the thing. Mm-hmm. But let me explain this to you. In that life there, as these men will tell you here,
right,
people hang themselves on the ventilator in the cell next to me every day.
And nobody outside of where you live can understand that and can relate to that because it's a life they don't know and will never know.
Because they don't care. I do.
Right.
But they'll turn that around and they'll say that I don't care, that they do. And then they'll say, we'll go help the misused children.
All right, let me
finish that thought. They said, we go help the misused children. I said, well, if you're going to help the abused children, what about these penitentiaries across the country? Aren't they abused children too? Or did you forget those?
Charlie Manson then was an abused child.
Every man in the penitentiary.
Well, we're not talking about every man. We're talking about you. I mean, so you look now at that life you've lived and you say, man, that was an abused life. And that was a man, you made him into what he became because you beat on him and you pushed him, right?
Okay.
That's your...
So in your world, you could take a slice of a pen and write it on a piece of paper and destroy 200,000 people, and it's okay.
Well, not me.
Because you don't have to see it.
Yeah.
It's all right because you don't have,
Okay, but was it okay? Was that murder okay because you didn't see it?
Murder? There's no murder.
There was a murder of Sharon Tate. Come on.
There's no murder in the Holy War, man.
Was that what it had nothing to do with that? Was it a holy war? Was Sharon Tate's murder a holy war?
The whole thing is a holy war. Wait a minute. Because you want to draw a line and say this is crime and this ain't crime.
No, I don't want to draw any lines. I just want to speak about the specific instance of that murder for which you're in this place now.
All right. Say what you have to say.
I'm asking.
Asking what?
Was that murder?
Was it murder?
Sharon Tate?
No.
More with Charles Manson in just a moment. Stay with us. We continue. In this part of our interview with Charles Manson, we continued talking about the Tate LaBianca murders, but we also explored the link of his family to the era of hippies, peace, love, and flower power. Who is Charlie Manson?
Charlie Manson's whoever he's allowed to be, whoever you make out of him, I guess.
And what of those people who say, monster?
What you see, what you get.
But do you like it?
Man, they have to live with it. I don't. You live with your judgments. I live with mine.
Perception. The most horrible crimes were committed at his direction, and therefore
you come back to the same premise. You come back to the same premise.
I'm just talking about self-image now. You don't like it? Do you not like it? Do you care about it? The fact that people somehow, there is something called the Manson mystique in the world now.
All right. Your name is Sam Smith and you're from Idaho. Now, what's your self-image? You know you're not Sam Smith and you know you're not from Idaho.
Right.
Well, now, how matter? I can scream and yell and I can tell the whole world, here's Sam Smith from Idaho. And you still know in your heart that you're not Sam Smith.
So what are you in your heart then, if you know you're not that?
I did not direct nobody to be killed, man.
All right. Who told Watson et al. To go commit those murders?
The lawyers.
Okay, well, we're not going to go anywhere on that.
All right. Well, you want me to explain it? It's a simple thing.
What is a simple thing?
Everybody that's a crook learns this, that you cannot trust a lawyer.
Okay.
Especially a criminal lawyer. You can't trust them.
So you're saying the defense lawyers did it?
No, I'm saying if we had a place to go, we wouldn't have to go to violence. But when you got no place to go, and your children can't find a father in your system, and you lay down and you say, can I get some help? And they won't give you no help. And you get stepped on in the face, and then pretty soon you say, well, what can we do here?
So violence is the only option we have?
Only change. Wait a minute. For that generation, you must realize I am not in that generation, man.
But you were part of it.
What do you mean? I just got out of the penitentiary.
Yeah, but you got involved in it right
I got involved in what?
You were involved with that generation of young people.
No more than anybody else on the street corner.
Do you believe the Tate LaBianca murders had anything to do with sort of ending the period of the 60s, creating a...
Yeah, it was the peak of the love that was running. Why don't we do it? After that, people no one will be watching us, and it's banging 24 hours a day. I didn't write that music.
Okay.
Take it to the Queen of England. Ask her why she's sending her kids over here and ducking from that Hindu pimp that's coming out of that New Delhi penitentiary. See, there's a lot more in the world than you know about, see?
Boy, there's a lot that...
Sure there is. Sure there is. Sure there is.
What do you say to those people who say Charlie Manson is a psychopath?
So,
okay, it doesn't bother you.
No, there's a whole lot of us nowadays.
That he hates people. That he's full of hatred.
Right. Yeah,
are you full of hatred?
No, as is it.
Okay.
In other words, I see that human beings aren't worth too much as a whole.
That he's schizophrenic.
Yeah, I can be that.
You are that.
Sure, I can. Well, aren't we all?
Yeah, well...
You know, they put you in the middle of the yard, I bet you change your personality.
I'm sure it would.
Yeah.
But you keep coming back to that, that they did this to me because they put me in the pen.
I didn't say they. I'm not blaming nobody for anything, man. I'm not pushing no rocks around.
If you're going to write a song today, what would it be?
You better bow down, disco. I'm going to take your heart away.
More?
I got nothing behind me.
You need a guitar to do it, huh?
Yeah.
You don't think of yourself.
I don't think of myself. You're right.
And secondly, you don't think of yourself the way these other people do, as this monster that
I think of myself as whatever I have to be.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, see, here's what's interesting about you. Listen to me 1 second. Here's this guy who most of us believe because of the trial, and you believe we were had by the DA, but most of us believe you did suggest, direct, because of the influence you had on those people to do those murders, and the next night, the LaBianca. And it has created this notion of you. You are one of the most infamous criminals, cons
Of all time.
in the world.
I don't think you guys have seen me.
Really?
No.
What don't we understand?
You don't understand yourselves.
No, but what don't we understand about you? Grant you, we don't understand ourselves,
Yeah.
but what don't we understand about you?
Just what I said. I'm inside of you, man.
Yeah.
I live inside of you. I'm inside every one of you.
And to say that suggests that what? You being evil is inside of all of us?
Life.
Yeah.
Evil. There's not, it's beyond good and evil, man. It's a balance. It's Abraxas. It's the Pope roller skating.
Yeah.
He keeps one hand on the table all the time. He never tells you he's running numbers on. He's got the dice in his hand.
Yeah, but now,
like we all know that. We should by now.
What do you think about the idea of responsibility, taking responsibility for your own actions?
I do. The court
believe in
ran
that?
for me. Sure. Now let me ask you a question.
All right.
How comes the court shirked and turned their backs on me and wouldn't give me my rights?
They gave you your rights.
Rights in what redaction? I didn't even get to put on defense.
Yeah.
When it come defense time, they said, we're taking too long in this. Covered it up and told the public another outburst, another Manson outburst.
Yeah. If you...
What defense did I put on? What witness did I call? Did I call one witness? I never got to call one witness.
You will not find any group of people who will not believe, who don't believe that Charles Manson got a fair trial.
And human rights are over in Russia. We won't look at Charles Manson. We'll just cover that up. We won't look at the fact that we've had a 9-year-old kid locked up and blaming him for everything we did since 1943, will we?
When we return, the conclusion of our interview with Charles Manson at San Quentin Prison. Stay with us. Night Watch continues. Charles Manson, as we shall see in this final segment of our interview, continues to deny all responsibility for the Tate LaBianca murders. There is no regret, no sign of remorse. How did Manson bend others to his will? At the end of our conversation, Manson's forcefulness, anger, and sense of theater all come to play. We talked about his followers and where they came from.
I live in another world.
Okay.
I was raised up that you don't get involved in other people's business.
Okay.
If they're doing something, that's them. They got to ride that beef. That's a jailhouse law. Ride your own beef, do your own time. And I've done that all my life. If Tex goes off and he kills 8 or 10 people and Bobby comes back and says, I killed him, I said, man, don't tell me about it. I don't want to hear it, It's none of my affair.
And you don't even care, you said.
Care?
You didn't. I know. You don't. I know. We've been through that.
Yeah.
You've been through that. What is the relationship between Charlie Manson and young people?
I am your young people.
There are people who fear you. You like that?
True
because
love
fear
casts
means
out.
power.
Love casts out all fear. If you're afraid of me, there's something wrong with you.
Not me, but
Yeah,
there are
that's what I'm
people
saying,
who are fearful of you.
Well, then they got to work it out for themselves.
They shouldn't be.
That's up to them. I don't, what can I do?
We haven't talked about one thing. I got to go, but I want to talk about this, about religion and God. Do you believe, Susie Atkins and Tex Watson have become born-again Christians?
Sure.
What do you think of that?
We were born-again Christians before we got
Do you
busted.
believe in a God?
Sure.
That's not you.
Well, sure it's me.
Under what circumstances would you look into the eye of a camera like that and say, look, I want to take responsibility
For the world that I live in.
No. Okay, for the world you live in.
The world that I live in. I got no choice.
Yeah.
I got peace. But until everybody's got peace, I can't have peace. In other words, I got you. But I can't have it until everybody else gets you. And then when everybody else gets through with you, then I'll get you.
You said that your book would not be published for whatever reason.
they
I
won't
don't know anything
publish
about that. But here, if you, in fact, in the last question, when you're going to meet your God, and when you know you're down to those last few remaining breaths, are you still going to say what you said to me, or are you going to say...
I've lived my whole life right in that spot.
Okay. So if it all ended tomorrow...
It It did end tomorrow.
All right, suppose it ends tomorrow for some reason.
It does.
You would go to your death saying, you got me all wrong, I didn't do it.
Yeah, see what I'm saying?
Well, wait a minute, answer that, because you've been very responsive. Would you go to your death saying, I didn't do it, I had nothing to do with those murders, and you put me here, and I didn't deserve it?
I didn't say I didn't have anything to do with them. I didn't. You misunderstand.
Well, tell me what you're saying about it. If it's your last will and testament, what are you saying?
You got a circle, man, that man lives inside of. He lives inside this circle. He's responsible for this circle and this circle only. You can take that to the House of the Rising Sun in Japan, the samurai. You can take that to the Second World War. You can take it and hang it on a cross. You can kill me 1,000 times, but it's still there. It makes no difference whether I'm in the circle or not. It's still there. What this man does outside that circle is none of my business. But if he comes up to the circle, I'm going to go, stand in my circle. If you don't stand in my circle, you're with your own life here. Your own life, man. Can't you see it's your life? It's not mine. I'm just another guy walking down the road going, how many times I got to go through? Where's God at? He said, I got a face. What is it? You want me to be everything to everybody. You want me to face all your fears and all your debts. You want me to die again for you. You want me to go to the gas chamber and walk in and say, all right, preacher on one side and then priest on the other side, and they say, I'm the son of God. And they say, we know, son. Go in and sit down. Give us your life again. And I say, I give you my life because I think you're taking care of the kids. But then I get out from the gas chamber and I go out and I look at the kids. You're not taking care of the kids. You're feeding on them. You're drunk on their blood, man. I'm an old man. All I want to do is retire. Get off in the desert and be left alone. I don't want to bother nobody. I'm hiding out underneath the rock. They come to me and say, hey, Charlie. Hi. I said, what do you want? You want to talk? I said, about what? We got problems. The water's dying. Your water's dying. Your life is in that cup. Your water's dying. Your trees are dying. Your wildlife's locked up in zoos. You're in a zoo, man. How do you feel about it? How do you feel? How do you feel that your children would do something like that? How do you feel that an ex-convict can get out of jail and go find rocket scientist children out in the garbage cans? Go home. I can't. My mother, my father won't let me. They're drunks. They hate me. I'm responsible for your children. You won't be responsible for... How do you feel about those murderers? How do you feel about them? That's what counts. Happen in your world, not mine. Not in my circle, because I wouldn't allow it.
But listen, those people that died never violated your circle.
I didn't have anything to do with those people that died. But son, how many times I got to tell you they died in Vietnam, they died in Korea. I didn't have nothing to do with that. I never told nobody, you go over and kill those people out in Oscar. I said like this, be responsible for your own actions, man.
Anybody who watches this tape is going to see the things that you have said and hear the things that you have said, and they also are going to say that man is mentally sick. And what do you say to that?
When you take a negative from a picture and you hold it up to the light, you don't see the light, you see the negative. So what you think in your mind as you look at me is how you're judging yourself in the world. This guy here was written down in the scriptures long before I got here.
You think you'll ever leave prison?
Prison? I left prison in '67. I got out of jail.
Yeah, but you're back.
Can't you see I'm out, man? Can't you see I'm out? Can't you see I'm free?
The victims at the Tate House suffered 102 stab wounds, and Sharon Tate, who was 8.5 months pregnant, was hung by Tex Watson. Now, not to be outdone, after these after 5 innocent people were murdered at the Tate House, and after watching it on television, news accounts of it the next day, Manson called for a meeting at the bunkhouse out in Spahn Ranch the next night, where members of his family were present, And Manson told him that they'd been too sloppy the night before, and they'd caused too much fear and panic, and he was going to go out with them this night and show them how to do it. Well, from the bunkhouse, they proceeded to take a 4-hour trip throughout different portions of the county of Los Angeles, looking at random for people to kill. At one point, Manson even ordered them to stop in front of a congregational church in South Pasadena, where Manson started looking for the minister so that he could kill him and string him upside down to the cross in front of the church. But it was so late at night that the minister was no longer there. When they finally got to the La Bianca house after stopping at various other locations looking for people to murder, Manson by himself went into the La Bianca residence. The La Biancas had just come home from a water skiing trip. Manson was armed with a gun, got the drop on them, tied up their hands, but told them that it was okay, that it was only going to be a robbery. He left them then on the sofa. He went out and told Tex Watson, Leslie Van Houten, and Patricia Krenwinkel to go into the house, but not to cause fear and panic like the night before, and not to let the people know that they were going to be murdered. One thing he did take when he was in the house was Rosemary LaBianca's wallet, and after he drove off from there, he directed the rest of the family who were in the car to drive to what he felt was a black area. He thought was Pacoima. It turned out to be Selmar. His directions weren't too good, but he had the wallet planted in a gas station restroom in hopes that a black person would get it, use the credit cards, and get blamed for the LaBianca murders. After that, the LaBianca murder was on August 10th. Then on August 28th, Manson, Watson, Grogan, and Davis ganged up on Donald Shorty Shea, who was a ranch hand, part-time ranch hand, part-time Hollywood stuntman who worked out at the Spahn Ranch. Mr. Shea knew the family and Manson were up to no good and tried to get them thrown off of the ranch. And also, Mr. Shea committed a cardinal sin because he was white and he was married to a black woman. And this infuriated Manson. And for both of those reasons, he was singled out and killed. And Manson actually participated in the actual murder, inflicting stab wounds to Mr. Shea. 6 of the 9 victims that Mr. Manson is responsible for murdering were murdered in the supposed sanctity of their own homes. And 7 of the victims were complete strangers to Manson. The only ones he knew were Hinman and Shea. And then not even that well. He probably knew Shea better than anyone because Shea worked out on the ranch. I think it's very interesting today, Mr. Manson's comments about the scorpions, which of course we all know to be a symbol of death. And Mr. Manson indicated that he is kind of the representative of the powers of darkness. I don't know of any better representative in the United States for the powers of darkness than Charles Manson. And I leave you with this thought: can we ever release a man like Charles Manson, who tried so hard to destroy our society? Can we ever release him back into society? The answer is clearly never. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kay. Mr. Claymore?
Yes, at this time I'd like to defer to Mr. Manson, who has a statement he'd like to read into the record.
Figure it out for you. Religion is God's biggest problem, and until you all accept one God, one government, one money, one order, there will be no order. Note this for the record: in all that was said about me, that was not me saying that. If it's a fault or a false prophet that you have seen in that, then that's only a reflection of your own judgments. For in truth, words can be made to say anything. It's the emotions that speak for the Manson family. Just as a circle embraces all that is within it, so does the Godhead embrace all. One has the power, and no one else has the power to divide this circle or to surpass it or to limit it. To do so will be at your own destruction. We each have our own worlds and judgments. I have no judgments outside what you all have set on me for yourselves to judge yourselves by. I'm content wherever I am. I live in my own peace of mind. Whatever I do or say, whatever you do or say does not touch my inner circle. I have peace in my mind. Now, for the benefit of everybody that don't know, the United States of America started the Second World War.
Mr. Manson, thank you very much. We're going to recess the hearing. It's approximately 10.
You can have the rest of it and put me back in my cell. This is all I really want to do.
You don't want to come back for the deliberation? Okay. It's approximately 10:29.
I don't think there's a decision among you, is there?
It's approximately 10:29 a.m. We're going to recess at this time, and we'll call y'all back in once we've made our decision. Are the mics off?
The loss of a child is a daily occurrence. There's not one day that passes that something doesn't remind you of the past. Now, I think that of course I function. I run a business. I have 12 employees. I keep busy and occupied, but there is not one day that passes that it doesn't enter into my mind what really happened. You're really, in all of God's mercy, you're thrown into shock. You really are. And it was actually 3 years before I could say that she was dead. I couldn't face it. What is the deterrent for crime if you turn these people loose? But as a deterrent for crime, they have to stay in jail. Who wants these people out on the streets? Mm-hmm. I would not want...
Did your husband, did he have the same problems, I'm sure?
Well...
If he said it was snowing and it was snowing, I'd say it was sunny out. In other words, you know, I mentally would block everything.
My feeling was that they would never be released for such a heinous crime. When they started petitioning for their release, then I knew I had to get busy. I had to do my own petitioning. They think it's criminal that they should even be considered for parole.
Keep going. So all signatures. A lot of them?
Every one of them.
Personal question of both of you. How are you dealing with this?
How you feel about it?
Okay, now, God bless him. I hope he is a born-again Christian. But he has no better place in which to preach than in the penitentiary.
That's good.
Part of my anger at you is...
Very, very unusual crime. This was not a traditional motive. The motive
motive at all. He looked at me, and I looked back, and I knew that he had to be involved with this gang some way. And it didn't surprise me at all when he spoke up.
These people were not criminals. They were extremely peaceable. They were extremely loving, caring people. I realize it sounds... I realize to people not fully aware of the details, it sounds contradictory.
Well, sir, I know that they killed her, okay? I know that the girls held her down, and I know that Watson stabbed her to death. They have to pay for their crimes.
Are you a member of the group of the Charles Manson family?
Yes, I was associated with him.
I figured so. That's what I thought.
Well, I waited till the cameras were stopped rolling, and I just asked the man, I said, there's two forces in this world, one is good and one is evil. And now where do you place murder? It's just that simple.
And
murder is evil.
And that's where I made the connection.
You cannot hang on to revenge. Revenge will just eat you up, you know. And I don't want revengeful feelings. But at the same time, as a citizen, I feel that I am the most qualified to do this job since I suffered through this.
You knew your daughter probably better than anybody else. Do you think she would be pleased with what you're doing right now? Is this the way she would want you to react to events?
I think so, yeah. I am sure that she would never want what happened to her repeated. I'm positive of that. So, how are you going to make sure of this if you don't do what I'm doing?
You are unsuitable for setting up a parole date at this time, and the factors that we considered in making this decision are that the commitment offense included
I consider myself more of a follower of Charles Manson in carrying out his orders.
Sharon Tate's mother, who has gone public opposing the release of Charles Manson and his followers, was not present for the parole hearing, but she did make her presence known earlier.
Beautiful things in it. He forfeited his right for freedom when he killed my daughter and 6 other people.
I'm not the animal that they think I am, but that I am a changed person, and most of all, God knows that I've changed from the inside out.
Too. And the conclusion is the same, that he is as one of the psychiatrists point out, a walking time bomb.
I'm going to give you this copy of the